And I will request, I know many times people are not comfortable, but if you do not mind, it'll be nice to see your faces, who you are. So by the end of the kirtan, if you don't mind showing yourself.
Thank you, Prabhu. I have been requesting them all the time. Hopefully they will listen to you today.
All right, so we'll just sing Jai Radha Madhava for a few minutes. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Braj Janaranjana Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Braj Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnana-jana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatam aham vande Shri Guru Dinataranam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Hare Krishna.
So very happy and very grateful to dear Krishna Prabhu and family for inviting me to speak today here amongst you all. That was a very big introduction for me. I'm just a very simple little devotee, a little soldier in Srila Prabhupada's army, just trying to serve in whatever capacity, whatever I've heard over years, whatever I learned from the books and from my experiences. I will just share that, and hopefully you all can learn. You will learn something from it. You'll get something out of your most valuable Friday evening, 1 hour of your time. This is most precious time of the week. So thank you, dear Krishna Prabhu, for inviting me. So from what I understand, this is the Reading Bhakti Vriksha, is that correct?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, and then there are other Bhakti Vrikshas going on also?
Yeah, in Reading we have one Bhakti Vriksha, and then sometimes devotees from Harrisburg also join us.
Okay, and you're doing Bhagvat Gita, so today's verse is 4.33 and 34.
Yes.
Would you be able to share on the screen?
Yes.
So I can just
Yes.
read from there? I also have some devotees from our Bhakti Vriksha joining today.
Oh,
so
wonderful. Thank you. Welcome all. Thank you for
some
joining.
devotees joining from there as well. Yeah. So from what I understand, what I was told is to go over 4.33 and 4.34. So we'll start with this verse. Shreyan dravyamaya yagna jnana yagna parantapa sarvam karma khilam partha jnane paris samapyate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. Purport. The purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from material miseries, and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna consciousness. Nonetheless, there is a mystery about all these different activities of sacrifice, and one should know this mystery. Sacrifices sometimes take different forms according to the particular faith of the performer. When one's faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifices should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. For without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter onto the spiritual platform. Depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, fruitive activities, and sometimes jnana kanda, knowledge in the pursuit of truth. It is better when the end is knowledge. So here it's very, very simple and straightforward. Prabhupada is describing here in the purport that we perform, or people perform many different types of sacrifices, but any sacrifice we do should be done with knowledge and should culminate in knowledge, and not any knowledge, but in transcendental knowledge. And the sum and substance, or the end of all of that sacrifice that we make, or the transcendental knowledge, is to develop to love for Krishna, to develop bhakti, to develop pure, simple love, just like a child has for the mother. So all in all, that's what this verse talks about. Now, how do we develop knowledge? Knowledge is important. Jnana yoga is very important, because without knowledge, how would we love somebody? We wanted to come to America. We learned about America. We heard from people about America. We met people who had been to America. And from their experiences, we learned that there's some value there to go there. So we left behind so many things to come here to America, based on faith and conviction that what I've heard from people around, what I've read, this is the place to be. And similarly, anything else we do in life, we go with faith and conviction. We go on a plane, it's faith. We graduate from school, we join a college, faith. Anything we do in life is based on some trust factor and based on our best assessment. So similarly, we gain this knowledge of Krishna consciousness by approaching a spiritual master. If you want to gain knowledge of medical science, obviously you go to college of medicine, and similarly with other professions. But when it comes to spiritual, also, we would need, there are many books in Amazon, but ideally you need a spiritual master. Now, what kind of a spiritual master is also important, because there are many, many spiritual organizations out there. You Google and you'll find tons and tons of spiritual organizations and many spiritual masters as well. So we have to understand what is the role of a spiritual master, who qualifies as a spiritual master, and how to approach a spiritual master, which will be in the next verse. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Translation: just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. This is very important, that a bona fide spiritual master, not somebody who's self-appointed, self-realized just by myself, which is also good. But then the question next is, are they in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself? No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. Bhagavatam says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path, nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. So two things mentioned here. Just by my own study, because my mind is limited, my intelligence is limited, my experiences are limited. So just by picking up books and studying, I will not understand the truth. And also by my own mental speculation or speculations by others, I think this is what it is. That will not help us either. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Now, this is where that humble position to become a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis who are serving Srimati Radharani, who is serving Krishna. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur Dasanu Dasanu Das. One has to approach a spiritual master. Spiritual life means it begins with the mood of service and humility. Many times people would say that religion is good, God is good, but I don't want to submit to an organization. I don't want to take up a spiritual master. I don't want to be locked into one individual or an organization individually. But if we believe in the Bhagavad Gita, let's go to our basics. Even in the courthouse in India, they say Bhagavad Gita ke upar haath rakh ke main jo bolunga wo sach bolunga, sach ke siwa aur kuch nahi bolunga. Even those who are not into religion or dharma or spirituality, even they accept Bhagavad Gita as the book of the Vedic culture. So if we accept the fact that Bhagavad Gita is true, then every word mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, we should accept it as truth. Now we may understand or we may not understand at the moment, that's okay, but let's go to the first fact that, okay, whatever is said by Krishna, I understand. And I, sorry, not understand, but I accept. So here Krishna Prabhupada is saying, I'll get to the next step, that Krishna is saying fine, but now here is the purport of Srila Prabhupada, another spiritual master. So in order to understand and believe, the words I believe, now the explanation, you have a code, but you have to decode the code also. We are not at that platform where we can read or hear the verse and understand the true meaning as it is just by reading the Sanskrit verses. We need somebody to decode it. Imagine, in just 4 lines, such an important message is being given to Arjuna. Now, that 4 lines needs to be decoded. And to decode that, we need a spiritual master. And here, one of the spiritual masters, renowned spiritual masters, and I'm sure nobody's new here if there is saying that one has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, not half-heartedly. Not I would give 50% to this spiritual master, 25% to another spiritual leader, and another 25% to another spiritual leader. Because the message and the understanding is different, what it will lead to is nothing but khichdi, a mix of different philosophies, a mix of different understandings, and end of the day will be in a completely confused state of mind. And one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant. Very important. Serve in a humble, menial mood. Menial means, recently somebody was asking what's the meaning of menial, and many people give answers, and one that I really liked was menial means who stays in the background, doesn't put himself or herself in the forefront, just quietly, peacefully, and in a humble mood without taking any recognition or anything, serves the spiritual master without false prestige that I am the doer. Whatever is happening is because of me. No, whatever is happening is because of the spiritual master. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. This is a very important factor. Over years, I've seen this in my own spiritual life. That books we can read, if those who are very intellect, they can read, they can memorize, and they're eloquent speakers. But when it comes to progressing in Krishna consciousness, something holds them back. That enthusiasm, the courage, the commitment, all that is lacking. Why? Because the mercy of the spiritual master hasn't come. And why the mercy of the spiritual master hasn't come is because we haven't got a chance to satisfy and please the spiritual master. Now we see in our own lives, as whatever role we are playing in our family life, if you're a mother, a father, a husband, a wife, a child, that when somebody pleases us, something happens within the heart and we just feel joy and we get good feelings and good energy towards that person. And we wish well for that person, isn't it? We bless that person. Similarly, with a spiritual master, that when we serve a spiritual master, and the spiritual master gets pleased, and that is the goal of when we serve a spiritual master, is just to please and satisfy. When you see in Srila Prabhupada's life, when Srila Prabhupada wasn't born, Prabhupada's father used to invite many sadhus at his home and serve the sadhus. And in one such instance, as the sadhus were served and after the prasadam was done, and Srila Prabhupada's mother came forward, and Prabhupada's father introduced, this is my wife. The sadhu, they blessed her that may you have a child that will spread the message of this Bhagvat Gita, this Vedic science, this Vedic knowledge all over the world. You see, this blessings, the blessings of the devotees, the blessings of the sadhus went so far that they were blessed with a child who was a representative of the Lord. And today we are all sitting here due to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
So to satisfy the devotees should be our ultimate goal. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Inquiries and submission. So here this verse talks about inquiry in a submissive mood. When I started inquiring in Krishna consciousness, Prabhuji mentioned that as a young child, I grew up in Mumbai, and we used to go to the Jew beach, and my father used to take me every Sunday there for horse riding. And in one such instances, I remember going to the Hare Krishna temple and having darshan of many, many devotees. And in the midst of that, somebody walks into the hall or the temple room, and everybody drops on the floor. And I was standing and I started crying because I'd never seen like where everybody's standing, suddenly everybody drops and this gentleman walks in. In very vague memory, and later I confirmed with my father, was that Srila Prabhupada? He said, yes, he's been there in a couple of instances. And then later on, when I came to America, from that time, which was probably 1975 or so, till 1993, I really didn't have much interaction with the devotees. And once I came to the temple here in Tobacco, New Jersey, and as I was leaving, taking the darshan, there was a white American devotee who followed me and he said, would you like to look at some of these books? And just being respectful, I paused and I stopped and I wanted to hear him out. But the friend that I'd gone with to the temple pulled me away. He said, hey, let's leave. He's going to try and sell you a book. Darshan ho gaya, chalo niklo ab. Abhi idhar khada mat rahe, nahi to book lena padega, paisa nikalna padega. I felt bad about it, and I felt bad to say, no, thank you, but I had to leave, and that was it. And then later on, during Govardhan Puja, that very year or the next year, this was in 1993, me and my family went again to the temple. And Govardhan Puja was the time when there was Kirtan going on. And during the Kirtan, all they were singing is Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And I really touched my heart. And I was thinking that, what are they singing? They're just singing the names of the Lord, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. So as the kirtans were going on, my family called me and said, let's go for prasad. Prasadam is being served. Hundreds of devotees, Govardhan Puja, so much prasadam, big, big lines. I said, you go ahead. I will come later. I just want to sit here in the kirtan. So the kirtan attracted me so much. And then later on, I went back after the festival. During the week, I went back to the temple. When during the weekdays, there's hardly anybody in the temple. The pujari was there, the deities were there, and that's it. And when I was there, I was looking at the deities, I was looking at the pujari, and the pujari was so kind. The first thing I remember that he did to me was a smile. His reciprocation was a smile. I've been to many temples where pujaris walk by me as if I don't even exist, like as if I'm a ghost standing in the temple and I don't even exist there. Here was somebody who took time to smile at me, took time to give me the deep so I can take the darshan, who later on brought some flowers and made me smell, and then came to me to ask me who I was and how can I serve you. And over time, why I'm telling you this will come to that point is, at that point I was in college, and I grew up as eating meat, and I was arrogant before that with my friends who were vegetarians, and I would always challenge them. I said, what is this ghas phus khate rehte ho? You know, you need to eat something, you need to get some strength and all this. But somehow or other, when it came to devotees, I never challenged them. I started inquiring. And after that first day in the temple meeting that pujari, I started going back again and again and again. Mostly during weekdays. I would go to college. From college, I would go there. I made friends with this devotee and started inquiring. And this devotee so patiently answered each and every question of mine, each and every question. And then came the Sunday programs where there's like 200 people. And then, you know, how can you ask a question? I was shy. I didn't want to ask questions. But then whenever an opportunity came, I inquired in a submissive mode. And that is somehow Krishna's mercy, Srila Prabhupada's mercy, that arrogance did not come out in front of the devotees. We have to understand the time, place, and circumstance where we can show our own qualities. Sometimes we have these aggressiveness qualities, doubtful mindset, anger, enviousness, but we have to understand that where I can display these. In front of the devotees, we have to be very, very much in a humble mood. But I wasn't accepting Krishna consciousness as it is. I was not going to blindfoldedly follow a faith that I've just come across. So the questions kept shooting questions, and the answers kept coming. And the best part was these answers were not, I think this is how it is, and this is what I felt, and this is what my experience is, and you know, from inside the Lord is telling me this, and nothing like that. It was all Bhagavad Gita, verse this point, this, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Upanishads, Puranas, from all places, quotations came. And when finally I started liking what is being said here, then I wanted to know about that personality, that when I entered the temple, on my right hand side is sitting on an asana, was sitting on this platform looking straight at the deities. Because every book, wherever they quoted from, they said Srila Prabhupada said this and Srila Prabhupada said that. And take the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita's author was Srila Prabhupada. So I said, I must know and understand who this Srila Prabhupada is. So the first book actually that I read was a book called Second Chance. But along with that Second Chance, I started also reading the first book about Srila Prabhupada I read was Your Well-Wisher. It's a small condensed version of Prabhupada Leelamrita. Because I wanted to know very quickly before I make my mind to follow the Hare Krishnas that who their guru is. Because many gurus like Rajneesh of the Osho and many others came and went. They fell, they took many with them, they fell, and it created a very bad image of our Vedic culture. So I wanted to be sure. So when I read Your Well-Wisher, those who have never read it, I highly encourage you to read this book. And then finally came the Prabhupada Leelamrita. when I finished Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita, I was 100% convinced that he is not an ordinary person. Srila Prabhupada was an empowered messenger of the Lord. And then I started more and more and more inquiry. So inquiries in submission. And over years, 1993 when I started coming, and then in 2003, I got my first initiation for my spiritual master, His Holiness Loknath Swami Maharaj. I met my spiritual master in 2002 when I was just browsing online and I was searching different topics. And I ran into this one kirtan by this Maharaj. And when I heard the voice, it just pierced my heart. And I said, who's this? Let me find out. And I found out that he was Srila Prabhupada's disciple. And I found out that he was coming to Washington, D.C. Now, when I found out he's coming to Washington, D.C., I wanted to go and visit him and meet him. But I was just 90, I was working at that time, and I made an excuse. I just finished college, and I was just doing a regular job. And then I decided that, my family was not necessarily, they were supportive, but they were not necessarily practicing devotees. So I had to make an excuse, and I said I have to travel to Washington, D.C. for some work. And I went there, and I met my spiritual master. And I spent 2 nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday there at the temple. I stayed there. They gave me a floor. I slept on the floor, and then I inquired from him. And that whole weekend was just submissive inquiry. And then the following year, I got initiation. But from 1993 to 2003, I got the opportunity to serve many spiritual masters, especially starting from His Holiness Ramchandra Swami Maharaj, who was our temple's GBC, who would come there very often. And I would serve him. And one thing I had learned from reading these scriptures and these verses was the importance of satisfying a spiritual master, pleasing a spiritual master in a humble mood. So my focus was I always saw every spiritual master as the same, as at the equal platform, as all of them being Srila Prabhupada's disciples. There was not one who was more favorable than the other, one who was more heavier than the other. They had all served Srila Prabhupada in their own ways. So got opportunity to serve in that way. So what I'm trying to get to is that when we do not differentiate between spiritual masters in the Vaishnava, in our movement, we serve all of them equally nicely as our own spiritual masters. If there is anybody who's initiated here, that obviously we have special place for our own spiritual master. But when it comes to serving in public, if there are 2 spiritual masters, this is my, again, experience, and what I have seen from my spiritual master is also that one may not even be able to tell who is the spiritual master, because a person is serving in such a beautiful way to both of them that it's hard for somebody who doesn't know even to know who his spiritual master is. That should be our mood. And for those who are not initiated that, our mood should be to look for an opportunity. We look for so many opportunities to travel. We look for so many opportunities to go on vacation. We spend so much money. We spend so much time planning. Similarly, if we plan well, when we hear certain sadhus are visiting, that we make full attempt to go and visit them, to take their darshan, to hear from them, to pray within our hearts for Krishna, that may somehow or other I please them. Even if I do not get a chance to serve them personally, even from a distance, because Krishna is in our heart, Krishna understands our mood. Many times we feel that, well, if a spiritual master is there, but what if I don't get a chance to serve them? But do not worry. End of the day, Krishna will guide us to a spiritual master, provided we have that desire to submit to a spiritual master. And when Krishna sees that sincerity is there, he will lead us to somebody who we will get attracted to. And you will know for sure that this is the spiritual master I want to take shelter of. So going back to the purport, Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Do not accept it just blindly, inquire. But do not keep inquiring for the rest of your life. We are in Kali Yuga, devotees. Our lifespan is very, very short. All the research has been done by the previous acharyas. They have walked this path and then they have talked about this path. Now, how much more are we going to research? At some point, by reading these books, hearing the kirtans, when your heart melts, lock that feeling in your heart. Lock it permanently. When you feel blissful, when you feel, yes, this is the way. Krishna is the way. Srila Prabhupada's books are amazing. Lock it. Because soon, when you stop reading, when you stop hearing kirtan, when you go out in the material world, Maya will strike again and make you feel, really, is that the way? It'll put doubts in your mind. It'll bring some confusion in your mind. But every time you open that lock and look within inside and feel that blissful and feel that feeling that you felt once upon a time, you will never be disturbed by all these other thoughts. So do not just accept, inquire, but inquire in a submissive mood. Do not challenge all the time. And many times I see people not only challenge, but also ask the same question hundreds of times. I had one devotee that I knew that they came from the Pushti Marg, Vallabhacharya Sampradaya. The parents were from that. They grew up in that. And at a young age, they were given the mantra, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. So when they came to the Hare Krishna movement, they liked the Hare Krishna movement. They liked Srila Prabhupada's books. They started chanting. The children started going to the Sunday school. But there was this one dilemma in their heart that I'm chanting Hare Krishna, but I was also given this mantra in our family, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. So what should we do? And this question came to me once, and I answered. I said, well, Mahamantra is the father of and mother of all the mantras. This is the mantra of the age. But if you would like to still chant, it's okay, you can chant. Whatever rounds you have committed to chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, after that, you can also chant this. Or after chanting the other one, you can chant this. But if you chant just the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that also means, hey Krishna, please engage me in your service. I'm surrendering unto you. So there is no difference, and Krishna will not be upset, nor the Guru or Acharya will be upset. But then what happened is, until the person wants to hear the answer that they want to hear, the person started asking the same question to many devotees. Until somebody said, well, it's okay. If you want to chant Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, that's okay too. And then stamped, got my answer. Because that shouldn't be the mood. If we are asking somebody, it is not about checking out what answers they gave or do I get the answer that I want. We have to ask a question to somebody we look up to that person or that devotee. And then when we ask those questions, and then we can confirm from another devotee, then we take that as Krishna's answer to our question coming through that devotee, and then accept and move forward. Otherwise, we'll be stuck. Many times devotees are just stuck in one place for years and years and years. I've been coming to the temple for last 15 years, they would say. I've been part of the Bhakti Vriksha for last 7 years, they would say. Okay, which is good. But even at workplace, don't we spend a lot of time and then we want some promotion? We don't say, I have been working at this company for last 15 years, and my role is I'm an analyst, a business analyst for 15 years, or I'm just at an entry level. My grade levels at work, and I'm at the lowest grade level that I started after graduation. We look for progress. We look for promotions. So similarly, even in our spiritual life, we want to progress. We want to move ahead and not just stay there. So unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. What that means is, yes, I may get my question answered in the class. There's a Bhagvat Gita or a Sunday class or a Bhakti Vriksha class. I ask a question, I got the answer. Now, what we make out of the answer is up to us, isn't it? You ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. You got your answer, you may accept it, may not accept it, may like it, may not like it. Right? Everybody connects to different types of devotees. As there are different types of inquirers, there are as many number of devotees. Somebody may relate to one devotee, somebody may relate to another devotee. So we may get our questions answered, but after we get the answer, what we make out of the answer is up to us. The difference is, unless there is submission and service, those inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. Why? Because unless and until, along with those questions getting answered, we get the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, it is not possible to progress. That is the secret of Krishna consciousness. The mood in which we are practicing Krishna consciousness is very important. If we please Guru and Gauranga, then that subtle mercy, that subtle blessings that we get, that our eyes cannot see, will take us back home, back to Godhead. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. Very important. Initially, when we all came to Krishna consciousness, like I was telling you about this devotee who was from South America, the Pujari who I met first. He's my Siksha Guru, Subal Prabhu. Now he's serving in Chicago. He one must be able, I'm just losing my thought process here. So when I met, one must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. Yeah. So when we first came to Krishna consciousness, we were welcomed very nicely, most of us, some of us. And everybody, took so much special care until something happens where you get a different name. And then suddenly, sometimes you may feel that, oh, I'm not cared for, I'm not asked for, or things like that. When you're a new disciple, spiritual master is so soft on you, so sweet, so nicely. And then as you get closer and closer and closer to the spiritual master, then sometimes instructions come. Then sometimes chastisement comes. Now that is one of the tests of serving a spiritual master, and our attitude also. When everything is rosy, when you're not doing anything, everybody will be nice to you. Remember this. When you are nobody, nobody bothers you. But when you start doing something, there will be obstacles. There will be criticism. There will be chastisement. So as we serve our spiritual masters, he will test also. Many times I've seen where devotees meet a devotee and they would just fall on your feet. And it's almost like a wrestling match, both trying to, who's going to touch others' feet first? Who's going to put their head on others' feet first? Wonderful. Now that same devotee, on a big festival like Janmashtami, you're in the parking lot and you have the service of coordinating parking. And that same devotee was trying to catch your lotus feet, drives into the parking lot, and you have certain designated areas where you shouldn't be parking. And you say, Prabhuji, please, can you please not park here and park there? It's a test of our own spiritual sadhana. How do we react at that time? At that time, that whole wrestling match and everything gets forgotten. It's like, what? Why shouldn't I park here? Why are you telling me this? I'm going to park here. I have a service. I have this, I have that. So what I'm trying to say is that similarly, when serving a spiritual master, when spiritual master glorifies, thank you, you did so nice. This is my devotee, comes home. You made such nice prasadam. All good. When the spiritual master says something that hurts you, How is your mindset at that point? Are we taking it as a lesson, as a teaching from the spiritual master, as a correction in a positive way? Or we step back and say, you know what, going forward, I'm just going to keep a little distance. Going forward, I'm really not going to get involved in this service. It is said that when a spiritual master chastises us, he's showering his mercy upon us. What use is a parent if the parent never tells you or chastises you when you make mistakes? You would never know. So we want devotees in our lives. Of course, there has to be trust factor with those devotees and spiritual masters also. It is important. You can't just have anybody walk over you and just criticize and chastise you and make you feel so lowly that you are of no use at all. That's not the point. But when we have Siksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus in our lives, before accepting somebody as a Siksha Guru, we have to think 100 times before saying that this is my Siksha Guru. Because once we say that this person is my Siksha Guru, then we have to be ready to hear. So that is our real test also. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. So it is not the test of Bhakti Shastri or disciple course or any Bhagavad Gita seminar followed by question and answers. You may pass those tests, but those tests are only good to get you that knowledge. Now we have to put that knowledge into practice. Many times people cannot connect the knowledge that they've gathered and putting it into practical practice. And that is why it is so important that along with getting knowledge, to have that putting it into practice as well and developing a soft heart. Just like the pastime comes in my mind of when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling in South India, where he saw this Brahmana holding Bhagavad Gita and having tears in his eyes. And there were other Brahmanas around who were laughing at this one Brahmana who was crying looking at the Bhagavad Gita. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approached. He said, why are you crying? Why do you have tears in your eyes? And he noticed that other devotees, other Brahmanas are laughing at him. And he was crying and he was saying that just see how great my Lord is, that he's become the charioteer of his own devotee and friend Arjuna. Just seeing that picture in his mind, he's getting tears. That somebody who's taking little steps towards Krishna, Krishna comes down to become his own servant. Such a wonderful. This Brahmana was not a learned Brahmana. There's also narrations about how this Brahmana was holding the book upside down. He could not read, but he understood the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So we have to understand the essence of whatever we are reading and hearing, to put it into practice. And when we do that, when we develop that heart and mood of serving Guru, Krishna, the devotees also, then that mercy will come. Krishna will see that this person is not just learned and a scholar, or he's not learned at all, but his heart is so soft. The heart is such that I can go and reside in there. And on the other side, we have somebody who's very intellectual, very much in puffed up mode. But Krishna is not present there in the heart, not ready yet. So he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. How many times has this word submission and inquiries come in this purport? When Srila Prabhupada repeats a word again and again and again, we have to pay special attention and register that in our own mind. Submissiveness, service, and inquiries. Very important. Service is also very important. Without service, it is very difficult, my dear friends. If you do not have a service, in your local community, in your local temples, at home, it is going to be very difficult. Prabhupada encouraged us to do service. He did not want us to become a renounced Babaji who would just sit with a japa bead, me and my sadhana. No. Why? Because our movement is based on preaching. Our movement it's a movement. It keeps moving. And it's a preaching movement. And in a preaching movement, we have to preach. And preaching doesn't just mean giving a class. I will tell you, when I started coming to Krishna consciousness, I would have never at that time in 93, if you had asked me to give a class like this, what to give a class? Just to stand up and tell my name and where I am from, I would shiver. My body would shake because I was not a public person. But over years, understanding the mood of this Hare Krishna movement, understanding the mood of my spiritual master, that they all wanted that we preach. So I had to go back and I had to do self-introspection. How can I preach? What am I good at? And I found that I was not good at anything that I could use in preaching. So I said, no worries. Let me just read and just share whatever I've read with others. So whatever I was reading, we started our first Bhakti Vriksha. Probably it was, I think, my son is 17, and we started the Bhakti Vriksha much before that. It was probably in 1996 or 97 is when we started our Bhakti Vriksha. And whatever little I had heard, I would just go and repeat those words. Doing that every Friday after Friday after Friday. Since then, we've never missed a Bhakti Vriksha, unless I was traveling or I was not well. Me and my wife and my son later on never ever miss Bhakti Vrikshas. So that service attitude was, I'll serve, whatever I know I'll do. I had never cooked in my life. What to speak about, But there was a need at some point in the temple where some cooking needed to be done. And they gave me a knife and said, start cutting and wash pots. Started doing. While doing that, saw how they were making these wonderful dishes, which loved to eat after, when the offering was being given out. And I wanted to know how they made it. I came home and started experimenting on my family. And gradually started how to learn. So the point is that we do all this to serve others, to serve and help our spiritual masters grow and grow this movement. Otherwise, what happens is we become complacent. We become complacent and we become stagnant in one place, like a statue. In India, in childhood, used to play that game. Someone will point like this, a statue, and we just stand there for a while, right? And this, okay, release or something like that. We become like statues. We just sit there, and we just no progress. And then we start finding faults in devotees. We start finding faults in the movement everywhere. Last 30 years, I've been coming to Krishna consciousness. Don't think that I've seen a lot of problems or issues or criticisms. I've seen a lot of them. But my relationship is with my spiritual master, with Srila Prabhupada. Everything around that comes and goes, doesn't matter. So we have to be fixed. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind toward the disciple. So one may chastise, as a father, one may chastise the child. Mother may chastise the child. But remember, when the child goes to bed, it is that same mother who comes and sits next to the child and speaks sweet words or caresses the child. So the spiritual master is like that. Just a quick time check. Okay, I will stop soon. So the mother and the father, our spiritual masters are like that. They may say things to us, but end of the day, they're very kind. They want us to go back home, back to Godhead also. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. Therefore, when the student is submissive and always ready to render service, Srila Prabhupada, we say, is the commander-in-chief of this Hare Krishna movement. Senapati Bhakta will come. This was the vision hundreds of years ago, that Senapati Bhakta will come to take this message all over the world. Why was that word Senapati used? Chief. army chief, you have the chief of staff. Because this movement was taken in that way, Prabhupada had very short time to take it forward. So if our chief is like that, whenever the situation demanded, Prabhupada would step up. He went to Russia when the KGB was there. He went first himself. He was not afraid. He went, and from that one visit, today Russia, you see what's happening, how fast it's growing. So we also, as devotees in his army, have to be ready to render service. I will tell you, since we have gone virtual last 3 months, we're having so many virtual programs from our center. And one such Sunday, I didn't give a class for last 3 months because we were inviting senior Vaishnavas to speak. Prior to that, I would be speaking very often. So one Sunday, the speaker who was supposed to join from India did not join due to some reasons. And the situation demanded that somebody give a class. And at that point, there was nobody else who wanted to or could have, or, I was like, okay, who's next? Next in line is myself, so I have to speak. What do I speak on? But I remembered Srila Prabhupada in my mind. I said, Prabhupada, I have to speak. Please bless me. And just spoke and just uttered whatever I've read from Srila Prabhupada's books. It's not about performance here in Krishna consciousness. It's not about performance. It's about, did I please my spiritual master? Did I please Krishna by this menial service? So we have to be ready to do this service. Now we may have issues, we may have problems here and there. I don't want to serve and this and that. Get that sorted out, but take up some service. Who are we doing it for? We're not doing it for others only. We are doing it for our own benefit. But by doing it for our own benefit, we are also serving others. So I'll pause at this point. There were some pointers that I wanted to cover. For example, I'll just do that very quickly, that we talked about approaching the spiritual master in a submissive mood, but we must also understand the qualifications of such a spiritual master. And so there are 8 qualities that I would like to go over. That the spiritual master must be in disciplic succession. This is mentioned in Bhagvat Gita, evam parampara praptam. The person, that spiritual master, must act like a postman who's delivering the message given by the Lord as it is, without any speculation or concoction. There are many sadhus out there who are speaking very eloquently, but this person is just holding the hand of one person and the hand of the Lord and combining the postman, delivering message. That kind of a spiritual master who's realized the conclusion of the Shastras, that Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govindam, Sarva Karana Karanam, that Krishna is the cause of all causes. He has realized this conclusion. Many spiritual teachers do not even accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Fourth, his teachings must be in conformity with the teachings of the previous acharyas in the parampara and with the scriptures. That he's speaking the same message that was spoken by other acharyas in his line. He practices what he preaches, number 5. Number 6, he's fixed in devotional life. He's fixed, he accepts Krishna, he believes Krishna, and he's fixed in his practices in Krishna consciousness. 7, his senses are controlled. Nectar of instruction, first verse, Vacha Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. His senses, all his senses are in control. And 8, he sees all living entities equally. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. The humble sage, by virtue of knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, and a dog eater, and a dog. So those are the qualities. And such one person that I found in my life back in 1993 was His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I had met many such spiritual masters, but they could not nail down the essence of everything that we can, that is out there, the knowledge that is there. Srila Prabhupada, he did it so beautifully. So Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I'll pause here and open up for any questions and comments if you have. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful talk. I will request all the devotees, please, this is an excellent opportunity to ask any question we might have in our mind to, remove any obstacle in the advancement of our spiritual life. Prabhuji, as I said, very experienced. He specialized in mentoring and coaching, and he has been serving the New Jersey area for many, many, many years, fully dedicated with his family. So please feel free to ask any question you may have.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Anushree Mataji. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Good to see you.
Accept mine, Prabhu. All goes to Prabhupada. How was your health?
My health, one is okay, the other is breaking. So, something is breaking all the time.
That is the material body, Prabhu. What can we do? We got to make it and patch it to serve Prabhupada.
Yeah, absolutely. Spiritual health is good.
Yes. Good to see you, Prabhu.
Same.
Any questions anyone has? It was a wonderful topic, actually, about the spiritual master, very important. So maybe I will ask if until anyone else has a question. So Prabhuji, like you said, sometimes we have this block in our heart where we don't want to surrender to somebody. So sometimes it could be our arrogance, but it may not be the case all the time. It may be just some, just trying to frame it. It could be due to the lack of trust in the process sometimes. So how to go about it if we have little interest and we know, like all of us here are coming to the program and trying to practice, and a lot of devotees, almost all the devotees chant also for many years. So what in your experience might be the blockage that we might have in our heart to take the next step?
So when it comes to service, and are we specifically talking about like very new people or those who have been coming for a while? Because they are two different.
Yeah, I'm specifically asking for devotees who have been attending the program for a long time, chanting also, but still they might be very humble, feeling that they are not ready for the next step. It is sometimes humility also that I'm not ready. How can we encourage them?
So some things, what I've seen is at times is that sometimes like devotees are really humble, very humble. Actually, it's not that they feel that they are not qualified, but there's some things that have happened in their own lives for which they've taken certain steps backwards. And just because they want to be humble and polite, they don't tell us that what the reasons were that I don't want to do certain services. So as a leader, I always like to introspect and see that somebody who used to do service, why is that person not doing a service? Have I done anything to hurt them, or has anybody else done something to hurt them? Why have they backed off? So that could be one of the reasons. And we have to, as leaders, we have to take that humble position and find out. The first thing as leaders that I try not to do is defend myself and say, okay, well, no, right? We have to see that position, their position. The next is sometimes a devotee goes through their own challenges, their personal challenges, in their own sadhana challenges, and sometimes those are the reasons that they want to back off. Just like somebody I know who said, I don't want to wear tulsi mala. So why? Because I don't think, I qualify to wear it. So like if you're wearing onion garlic, you should not wear it, and this and that. But many times it is that they are doing certain things in their life which their consciousness is not allowing them to go closer to the devotees and Krishna. So in a humble state of mind, they want to stay away. But to them I tell that by keeping away, you're not going to progress. The only way by coming out of this web of I'm not qualified or somebody did something to me is by continuing to do that service or other services and finding ways of, if I don't like Dhir Krishna Prabhu to work under, then I can work under Anasuya Mataji. But Dhir Krishna Prabhu is also a devotee of Krishna. So I must respect him, and I must respect him for his services, But I gel well with Anasuya Mataji, so I can work under her or with her. But if I back off from service, Dear Krishna Prabhu or Anasuya Mataji will find somebody else for service. But what will happen to me is I'll feel left out. I'll feel like ultimately end of the day, there is nobody around. I don't have any service and I'll feel morose. I'll feel down. I'll feel depressed and I'll feel I'm not wanted. I'm not accepted. I don't qualify and will commit a spiritual suicide. So I say that move forward with some service, whatever that menial service is, and respect devotees for what they are. And when there are differences, move on because we have to keep moving on. Preaching has to go on whichever way. And, you know, there were 100 reasons for me to stop Krishna consciousness, honestly, to stop going to ISKCON temple. Hundreds of reasons. But it doesn't matter. ISKCON is such a big ocean. And in that ocean, sometimes you have bad experiences. There are storms in the ocean, there's waves. So that's what I would say. And if it is your own sadhana that is becoming an obstacle, then get up and start doing your sadhana nicely from today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for very wonderfully explained, Prabhu. Thank you. Very practical response. Like you said, it's more important to keep serving than to feel let down or something like that. I see Vishaka, you have a question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the class. I really enjoyed it. One question I had that I made a note in the beginning, you mentioned the importance of inquiry to understand the knowledge given by spiritual master. But sometimes I find that over time, I begin to simply accept kind of blindly, oh, if he's saying it, it must be true. There's no need to understand and apply, not exactly out of faith, but more out of laziness. So in that process, blind faith develops due to this laziness to further inquire. So how can I handle it?
Do you accept Srila Prabhupada as a pure devotee?
Yes, I think so.
You think so, or are you 100% sure?
100% sure.
Okay, that's very good. In that case, if you're accepting blindly, it's wonderful. That is called bhakti. That's also devotion. Because first thing you accepted Srila Prabhupada, where you did your inquiry, isn't it? You came to that 100%. After that 100%, you have to follow blindly. The whole point is not to follow blindly, meaning like when we are inquiring initially, that don't just follow blindly because, you know, I like somebody's kirtan or this person really looks very charming, whatever they say, and this person has so many followers, so I accept blindly. No, that's not blindly. But once we accept, then follow blindly. Then do not start analyzing. Why did Prabhupada say that women are less intelligent and they are like, you know, Shudras and women and are like this? That's when we can say, well, I accept what Krishna is saying, not Prabhupada. Krishna is saying, I may not understand the meaning of that, you know. Then let's approach a devotee and explain me the meaning of this verse and what Prabhupada is saying. And then the devotee will nicely explain and then we will understand. So you are in a very good position that you're blindly accepting what Srila Prabhupada is saying in his books. But that laziness part that has come, that it's okay to be lazy and just accept. Prabhupada said that. Now application is important. That how much of that we will apply. Like I gave a class. I hear many classes virtually, right? Many devotees have been coming, Maharajas are coming and giving virtual talks. I make it a point that at least one point from that class, I take back and apply in my own life. At least one point that I can take and share with somebody else. Because I lead Bhakti Vrikshas, I have many other devotees, so I can share that same point with others. So whatever you are learning, there are some people that you may influence around you, or you may have an opportunity to speak. Whatever you are learning, first of all, you imbibe in your own life, then you get confidence, then share it with others. Okay? Did I answer your question? So it's okay to follow blindly as long as you accepted the spiritual master.
Yes, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, anyone else have a question or any comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Firstly, Prabhu, sorry for joining your class late. I had to finish my work from my office till about 8:30 and then take a 10-minute break and get online. So I missed a good part of your class. However, when I got onto your class, this is one of my favorite verses. I love this chapter 4.34, and I think because it talks about the spiritual master. There's one point, Prabhu, that you mentioned that really, actually everything that you mentioned that I logged on took me back 30 years, really had me walk through my memories. So I really want to thank you to have me go back in my journey with my spiritual master. But there was one point that you mentioned, Prabhu, that made me realize, and I wanted to share my realization, if that's okay, as when you were mentioning about, you know, when devotees or when they come from different sampradayas or different religion and they chant a certain prayer or a mantra, and then they ask, you know, what happens when you are, how do you merge with the holy name? I was born and raised as a Christian and in a Christian family. My father's actually an ordained church minister. So it was a challenge becoming a devotee from a Christian family. And my husband was raised Catholic. So coming from a very staunch Christian background, when we were first taught how to offer prasadam, you know, they always have you set up Prabhupada's, the Guru's picture, Prabhupada's picture, and because him and I were attached to our Christian background, we asked our spiritual master, you know, can we have a picture of Jesus over there? He says, yeah, sure, no problem. There's nothing wrong in it. And he says, over time, you will transcend. Of course, at that time, we don't know what the word transcend meant. This was like 30 years ago. And I remember that the more we offered our boga before the great personalities and before Christ, over time, Prabhu, what I've learned is just chanting the holy name, like you said, as the father and mother of all the mantras. Everything else just kind of like fizzles away. It adds more importance to our, you know, where we were born, and it gives us a higher meaning. So what I've learned is that even though they come with some other background, but once they start chanting the holy name, it just takes over all the other mantras. And I want to share that it's just the magic of the holy name. It really is.
Thank you for sharing that. That reminds me, just yesterday I was talking to a devotee who was going through cancer treatment, really suffering. And the devotee is chanting 16 rounds initiated. Recently also started chanting many other mantras that were told that the planet Rahu is affecting, and there are a few other things. So chant certain mantras, and the devotee started chanting. And the devotee was not having time for services and wanted to withdraw. So I was like, why do you want to withdraw from services? It's because I'm feeling down, and I'm really feeling down. I'm struggling. The medications are really taking a toll on me. And I said, okay, tell me, what are you doing? He says, you know, I chant 2 hours chanting Hare Krishna, then I'm doing this mantra, and then the other mantra, and this other mantra. So I said, you know, you're chanting so many mantras, and you're taking so much time in those mantras. You remember that day when you took initiation from your spiritual master? And you had full faith, conviction that this Mahamantra, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told us, Mahamantra is the way for this age. And everything, the Lord has put his all energy in this mantra. So I said, why do you need these other mantras at this point? When you are so close, you are at a point where death is very near to you. That's the last thing you want to do. So I said, why don't you take that time that you're spending there and continue with your services? Your mind will be busy and occupied. And that satisfaction of serving others will give you so much strength and courage and positive vibes. And the person left, hopefully, was very happy and said, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to chant and continue chanting just the Mahamantra, and the rest of the time, I'm going to continue my services. So it is important that those of us, how many of you all chant 16 rounds on this call? Very well. How about others? Vishaka Saki, Ajay, Darsh, Anita, Amish. Okay, Vishaka does. Madhu, Veena, Anant, Yes. Vrinda says yes. Veena, Amish. It's okay. The importance is not just 16. The importance is chanting with full faith and purity. One name of the Lord is better than chanting 16 rounds with mind here and there. But it is important why we chant 16, because again, submissively as the Guru has instructed. So Srila Prabhupada has asked us to do 16 rounds. We do the 16 rounds. The mind may go here and there. It will. But still keep doing, because then we are pleasing the spiritual master. And I'll tell you this, that this time is very short, devotees. If you really feel that this Krishna consciousness makes sense, somehow or other, connect to the disciplic succession ASAP. Come to the platform of chanting 16 rounds. Come to the platform of accepting a spiritual master, taking Diksha. It is very important, because next life, who knows? Is it going to be human birth or some other species? Ask ourselves, what is stopping me? Maybe it's, I'm not 100% sure. If this, then that's fine. Then let's get the 90% to 100%. Where is that 10%? Where is that 50% that you are not sure? And if you're still not sure, it's okay, next life, no big deal. But my thing is that if you're almost there, then pray sincerely to Krishna to send to your spiritual master. And do it quickly. Everything else will fall in place in time. If we wait for everything to be perfect and then start service, then start 16 round, then take Diksha, I will tell you, it will never happen. Yeah? Anybody else has any question or comment?
Prabhu, I also like the point that you talked about service. How you stress that it's very important for devotees to actually be engaged in service, because that's what keeps us connected to one another. And I also like how it's important that if we don't have service, then we got to find some service. And I remember my spiritual master telling us years ago when he was on the planet, where he said that if a devotee doesn't have service, it's like spiritual suicide. That's the term he used. And if we do not really see it as spiritual suicide, then we're in Maya. He just came right out, raw and said that. And at first it was difficult for us, being new to understand. But as we go on, like you said, years and years, if we don't have service, it does feel like, life is so incomplete, because service is what keeps us connected to the spiritual master. And I want to thank you so much for really speaking about service, Prabhu. Thank you. You hit on so many wonderful points. Thank you so much.
So I say this, that there's a rule called 20-80% rule in corporate world. I work for a pharmaceutical. I work as a director for one of the divisions, and I've been working since college. I was working full-time and I was going to college full-time, so many years. And one thing that I've learned is there's a 20-80% rule, which is 20% of the people do the 80% of the work. Anywhere 20% of the people would do 80% of the work, and the same thing comes with spiritual life also. 20% will do their 80%. For us to figure out what that 20% is important as leaders, and the 80% who are there will also help out, but sometimes we seek or want them to become part of the 20%. So I've learned this, that you cannot make the horse drink water. You can bring the horse to the pond, but you cannot make it drink water. So we need to understand that not everybody will take up like that, and that's fine too. The most important thing is loving relationships between devotees. Service karna hai karo, nahi karna hai mat karo. You want to do service, fine. No one to do, don't fine. But let's have loving relationships with each other. Today or tomorrow, one will take up that service, some service. Service for themselves. Some want to serve in a bigger way. How many God brothers and sisters we have? Do all serve their spiritual master in the same capacity? No, they don't. But 20% of them are are doing certain things for the spiritual master. So similarly, that we give them space, we give them room, but at the end of the day, just be good friends. That is more important.
Prabhuji, I have a question on the private chat to me. If someone want to do service, but they don't have support from family, so they get discouraged, how to handle that situation?
It's a very generic, and it's a good question, but it's very generic. So I don't know the details, but what I'll say is that it depends on if you're seeking them to also support you and they are not doing, just do it anyways. You know, okay, so I'm a devotee, my wife is, my wife is a devotee, I'm maybe not, maybe, and I want both of us to do it together. Everybody has their own past karmas, everybody has their own hang-ups. They may do, they may not do. If I want to do certain service, but I'm not allowed to do that service, well, you know what, relationships are important. Don't spoil that relationship in order to just do that service. So whatever is possible in whichever situation you are, try to do that. And then pray to Krishna to somehow or other change the mindset of that family member who's not helping or supporting. And that's all we can do, pray. I had a devotee who was not a devotee before and met me virtually through some correspondence I was doing for Padayatra. It started from Gita Nagari, if you remember, many years ago. There was this Avaduta Shiromani Prabhu and his wife Sakti Bhava Mataji.
Chandrabag, I think her name was. Chandrabag. That was in like, I think late 90s.
Late 90s.
97, yeah, I remember that.
So these two devotees, husband and wife, they started a bullock cart and they took the bullock cart on the roads of US and they went all the way through South America. Okay. So I was doing their correspondence. They would write me from the road. They would mail me, snail mail me the letters. I would type that online. I would type it online and put it on Danvats so that the entire world comes to know. Somebody in Kansas saw these postings and wanted to help out this yatra, Padayatra. So this person sent me a check as a donation, $500 back in the 90s. Said, we would like to help support this, so send me. Now what happened was I got the check and somehow or other, my mistake, I misplaced it. I just kept it somewhere and I found it after a month. Again, Krishna's plan. And from the check, I found the name. The name had a husband's name. And I called in Kansas. How many Indians and certain specific names you're going to find in that small town in Kansas? It happened to be this doctor's office. And the receptionist picked up and says, I'm calling for this person. He says, yeah, the doctor is busy right now. I said, can you call me back? He called me back. He says, yes. I said, I received this check from you and I really thank you very much. Just wanted to make sure that I can still deposit. It was over a month actually. And he says, actually that must have been my wife. I will let her know and she will give you a call. Next day the wife called and she wasn't happy because she sent me this check. It was a joint account and she wasn't happy that her husband came to know because her husband was not favorable of this. Her husband was not favorable, going back to the question. So I said, oops, sorry. He says, please don't call me again. You can deposit the check. Be happy. Deposit the check. I said, okay. The next day, Mataji calls me again. Says, Prabhuji, sorry for being so rude. My husband was right there to me, next to me, and he was very upset that I sent that check. My husband is not supportive at all for me to practice Krishna consciousness, Prabhuji. I'm suffering here. There is no devotees. There is nothing. There is no temple. There is nothing. My husband wants to eat meat at home, this. For years, we communicated and I said, so you are in the situation. Let's look at what are your options. What is in your control? In your control is what you feed your husband, isn't it? Can you make him chant? No. Can you make him give up meat? No. Can you make him come to some programs? No. What is in your control? What you cook, right? He says, yes, Prabhu. I said, can you do me a favor? Start offering whatever you're cooking to Krishna without onion garlic. You make it in a way, there are so many recipes that he may not even find out. She started doing it. He never found out that there was onion and garlic missing in the prasad. Long story short, she took initiation from Giriraj Maharaj. And her husband is fully supportive of her practicing. He doesn't like her to be doing too much, but yes, okay, he will go for programs and occasionally. But what I'm saying is the importance of prasadam. So look at what things you have control over and then leave rest up to Krishna and pray to Krishna that your family member would be able to help you. Someday I can tell you my own story, where my family also, I went through, my very loving family, very supportive family, but some of the mistakes I made, some of the challenges I faced, and how today my mother is chanting, my father is chanting, my brother gave up meat eating, he's chanting. So I can share that story sometime. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, and we would love to hear your story in detail. And
Anything else?
Anyone have any question? I mean, I know we are almost 9:45, but if I would not like to let go of this opportunity because very hard I got hold of Prabhuji. But if no questions, we can go to the next part. But quickly, a couple of announcements. So this Sunday, we have a special program. Let me share quickly. So it's a special program on this Sunday at 5 p.m. We have a graduation ceremony for all the Sunday school kids. So please join. I request all the devotees, please join. And it's not a regular program, but it's going to be wonderful, wonderful presentations. And of course, this is the first time they will be doing online. Please encourage them. Prabhupada said, these kids are not ordinary kids. When Prabhupada said something, say something, we should not take it lightly. So let's come together and encourage these wonderful kids who are from Vaikuntha, as per Prabhupada, and encourage them and be a part of that wonderful presentations. And then following week, the weekend of 3rd July, we have a Bhakti retreat coming up, the yearly Bhakti retreat with Sriman Krishnadas Ji Maharaj, and it will be all on virtual online. So we are planning as much as we can to make it as interesting and as useful as possible, because this is the first time it will be online. So like previous retreats, the special topic this time we are taking up is Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's Bhajan Rahasya. One of the idea with these retreats is not only just having fun with kirtan bhajans and a lot of spiritual entertainment. The idea is to do a deep focus study on one of the advanced topics. So this year we will be taking up Bhajan Rahasya, the secrets of devotion. So please let me know. Registration is required. So please let me know if you would like to attend, or even it's okay if you want to attend some of the programs in the retreat. It's not 3 days this time. It will be just 2 days retreat from Friday evening to Sunday evening. And I will post the schedule, completely scheduled shortly. And lastly, we have a special request for prayers. One of the devotee, he's in American body. Today, I think he sent me a message that he is in the hospital for some special treatment. He has developed some infection in his leg, and he had come to our programs a couple of times, and he has been in touch with me offline for many, many months. And we talk about a lot of Krishna conscious things. Very, very nice devotee. So let's pray for him as we do Narsimha prayer. Let's keep Ed. His name is Ed. Most of us must have seen him and met him.
Should I start?
Yes, Prabhuji, please do.
You go?
Yes, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralhadadadaine. Hiranyakashi Purvaksha. Shrilatankanakalaye. Ito Narasimha Parato Narasimha. Yato yato yamitato nasimha. Bahi nasimha, hridaye nasimha. Narsimhamadim sharanam prapadye. Tava kara kamala varena kamadhuta shringa. Dalita hiranyakashipu tanu bringa. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. Jaya Narasimha Dev, Jaya Narasimha Dev. Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Bhagwan ki Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj ki. Finally, I'd like to invite, obviously we're in a lockdown right now, but when we come out of the lockdown, if any one of you visit New Jersey area, please feel free to contact me and give us an opportunity to serve you. Even though we have not met before, but we are a big Prabhupada family, and that is our beauty. We can go to any place and find a devotee and say, can we connect? So feel free to stop by. We would be very, very happy to see you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for all the taking out time for us. And hopefully we can have you again in the near future. It was really very inspiring talk. And I'm sure it has benefited all of us. Thank you again, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all the devotees for your association tonight. And we will be in touch, of course. And next week, it will not be a regular program. It will be a Bhakti retreat. And this Sunday, again, we have a special program of graduation ceremony for Sunday school kids. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.